Hey, what about that comment from the netizen? They just criticized me, unwilling to return an investment report while keeping an eye on it. Is it black or white? Buying and selling U.S. stocks is called black. You understand that the U.S. stock market's ups and downs involve playing the black and white game in America, chasing and retreating, poking at stagflation and fighting again. One key point is how Donald Trump's stock market will fall. And what about the protests? Will they happen? Will there be a showdown? I observe all the subtle details, and if Donald Trump performs according to historical records, then everyone might want to buy U.S. stocks again. I would immediately use an emergency alert to notify those who need $500,000. The funniest thing was, the day before on Clubhouse, there was a net user who said, I realized my mistake. The ancient tomb is worth more than $500,000, and you didn't end up feeling angry. I told him to buy something because some repair supervisor at Lotus Telecom had already issued the money. Haha, and he didn't even subscribe. All right, the global stock market brought a bit of fluctuation to the Hang Seng Index, which was at 68.74, even more than in 1987. I told myself, well, it's good to go back to yourself too. Usually, after 3 months, we expect it to drop even more. The Nikkei has already been down for the third consecutive day, dropping below 10,000 points to 9,000 points. The Nikkei has already calmed down. I mentioned that they were talking about South Korea finally dropping by 5%, Singapore by 8%, and Australia not as much. Australia actually suffered less this time. The UK dropped less, but still a few percent, Germany by 5%, France by 5% on the Euro index. New Zealand is buying up properties aggressively, buying indices aggressively. These back and forths have already been bought into stocks. I will do a study later on, as Indian stocks are being bought and sold in a frenzy, but haven't yet increased. However, Indian stocks might still have a speculative direction. I might consider investing $500,000, thinking it might be good to give the U.S. stock market a boost. Tech and financial leaders are heading to Mar-a-Lago to talk with Donald Trump. Donald Trump sent a message saying it's our growing pains, and you need to stick to this path. Monday's downturn wasn't intentionally aimed at making the stock market fall. Some people are saying, why would they do it so hastily? I found out that they were waiting for the announcement of countermeasures on Sunday. What about China? China's countermeasures led to further countermeasures from them, causing a fascist-like drop of a few percent. Many are calling for some kind of announcement from Romney. Some people have malicious intentions, selling off and then buying back, waiting for Monday to start buying up stocks, making a big announcement afterwards. But when you're sick, you need to take medicine. If foreign countries want to lift tariffs, they must pay a hefty sum every year. Isn't that just the same thing? We should reduce our surplus with the United States. Otherwise, it's like giving them money equivalent to $350 billion US dollars, and they want to revert to previous figures. All right, what am I doing here? For my team, both China and the EU need to address the trade deficit, and the only way to reform is through tariffs. Tariffs have already been imposed, and the billions of dollars collected have been sent back, which has caused quite a bit of confusion, yet it's still a beautiful page. We must insist on it, especially during Biden's term, right? These countries' trade surplus with the United States is growing so quickly. What should be done? We need to pay attention to this because we must rely on Biden, and there are good financial resources available, right? So, how did Biden increase it compared to 4 years ago? We also need to reverse it, and quickly, because for some individuals, these tariffs are a very positive thing for the United States. Let's take a look at the U.S. trade figures in the actual situation. As he said, there's a line at 400 billion, a line at 600 billion, and when it comes to that point, it's a 500 billion gamble. At that time, Biden was still significant because of the pandemic in the U.S., which caused the economy to come to a standstill. The trade deficit continues to widen, so what does this mean? The real reason is that the U.S. economy recovered more slowly compared to other developed countries, so goods flowed into the U.S. and Americans bought too much, which also led to serious issues. I would say the deficit is a more serious problem. This trade deficit is not a huge issue. You see, it's been $500 billion all along. Today, the U.S. has intangible trade. And in terms of English, is there anyone promoting the U.S. model of trade? Every year, there is a surplus of $600 billion. This isn't widely known, and it includes sectors like finance, tourism, insurance, and services. For instance, if a company operates abroad, they pay money, and whether or not they are satisfied, they have paid. So, in our country, there are still issues in this area. There's a ruler, and there's a minor problem, but they still buy its advertisements without being the boss. They set the price, and unless some changes are made, they won't reach an agreement with Beijing. Shouldn't you change a certain aspect? If you don't change, would Beijing dare to change a certain aspect? It's impossible for Beijing to see that Beijing can be entirely unified by natural gas. The U.S. won't buy from Russia, won't buy from Iran, but buys from the Arab states. The U.S. has natural gas to cover the deficit caused by warfare. Every day, thousands are given to lead the U.S. Ma Yun and others are involved. This wooden box, werewolves, and the four of them, cough, cough, does the family lack certain aspects? Cough, cough, is that so? China's entire voluntary export is several times that of Japan's entire automobile quota. If China happens to export, to match the U.S. trade figures in the digital economy and quota economy exports, then the result will turn into an internal outcome. Here, the U.S. wants to buy these. However, the second country will be wiped out by certain crops. China's countermeasures will further elevate China's position from the Chinese arena, and it can withstand the related outcomes. If China's main position is defeated, China's political stance will also be defeated. There are two main reasons. First, to take the lead in opposing the U.S., demonstrating itself as a world leader. If the U.S. government imposes tariffs, China dares to counteract, and this will influence tariffs in other regions, leading to more actions elsewhere. Business leaders only maintain the order of world trade. That's the first point. What is the second point? China believes it needs to counteract because it buys your natural gas, your agricultural products, and your Boeing planes, so the love you give to farmers is enough. For Wang Qishan, who has been dealing with this for 2 years, don't let the mainland fall into chaos. People from the mainland and the U.S. might call it ugly, but our people manage well when they go out. The $160 billion might be drawn out, affecting the midterm elections. Don't give me a hard time. Don't make me suffer. What about before? As for individuals, it's just those knockoffs. I think they can endure it, but others might not be able to handle it. If they can get through it, then it will be like a performance. Why bother with my hawthorn? 2 families harvest and then 1 family leaves. My hand falls behind and then moves on. Others come and turn it over, and this is called the street passage. Old Zhang, I also understand that many Eurasian leaders hope this week will see the tariffs reduced by 50%. Many people will be listening to this. How long have I been leading this country? Unless a large sum of money is given and the trade deficit is resolved, isn't the dream also pleasant to hear? Because I bought back a large sum of money from North America. I haven't given this yet, that beautiful lady. I haven't returned that large sum of money to you in North America. That was used to buy the first good thing in America. Even American martial arts were bought. I'm really trying to find it. If Mason's stock market adjusts without causing an economic recession, then MSNBC will show this absurd relationship at the Mason-State border. You want the news to get out. It turns out that this whole relationship was announced 3 hours earlier, and you have so many decisions, fundamentally overturning all previous plans, all calculation methods, and rules. What about the calculation methods? Then use the Navarro-Musk equation. And although it seems complicated, it's actually very simple. There's only a trade deficit offer. The export A flipped the ratio, and everyone laughed at him below. Engineer Cheng became 0.25. Member 4 became 0.25. Added factor 6, and as a result, he also became 4 by 0.25, which suppressed the pressure without changing to loom. Another official mentioned that for the tariff, senior trade advisor Navarro and Lotnick's lecture court writes trade representative. This person junior is an important member, the true soul. According to Navarro, the plan for tariffs given by Navarro still needs to be read like a dog's knife. Last Wednesday, the details of the tariffs were announced, and Mason Dewa can participate in negotiations with other countries without involvement. It's tricky to handle taxes because dealing with those tariffs is very troublesome, and many also need to be collected, which isn't so easy. In February, I told you that daring to collect money from those small e-commerce transactions under 800 would take 3 months, and now the whole system is coming out. Minister of Commerce Rodney stated that the tariffs will not be delayed and will definitely continue to be implemented for several days or weeks, as the president needs to reshape the global trade order. Going forward, it's as if there are no tariffs, and after that, not only should it be said this way, but you have to give it to Aji to recruit people. But he expects high tariffs just to get those people to come to him, and whatever is needed should be responded to. But I don't know how it can be that the U.S. gets a large sum of money, and then the U.S. will cut tariffs. He is holding on to it. It won't be long-term, only giving us a few weeks. We cleared the store here, and we are the ones who got a large sum of money from the U.S., with Americans finding half the tariffs just now. Ludney reiterated that manufacturing job opportunities are a big deal, but with this U.S. move, you have to consider pharmaceuticals, shipbuilding, and semiconductors. That's why TSMC buys its own, because it will still charge TSMC, semiconductors, tariffs. I think it's about 35% no matter what. The semiconductor tariffs for TSMC, shipbuilding, and saving a ship after it enters the port are $1 to $1.5 million US. Pharmaceuticals hit me with 40% to 50%. I researched pharmaceuticals, and they are mainly from China, Indonesia, China, India, and Europe, the 3 major places. As for key manufacturing, Donald Trump will further announce in the short term about pharmaceuticals, shipbuilding, and semiconductors. The main thing is to move all semiconductors from Taiwan back to the homeland. For this, do you think we need to keep negotiating this? Everyone keeps negotiating for face, moving everything back that was taken away. You see, some of it might be yours, and you can give it to the boss, like the hedge fund manager Ackman. Donald Trump has the opportunity to pause for a while. You need to stop and correct the unfair tariff system, and you've already made corrections. If the United States heads towards a self-induced economic nuclear winter, falling into a dead silence, even former Wall Street executives who are business supporters of Donald Trump, the support for these tariffs is very weak. I can't find a single investor who can present any reasonable argument to support these tariffs. All I get is this president's idea. What he's thinking is that Donald Trump has only mentioned this kind of thing in 40 years. Someone told him, sharpen a sword for 40 years, so he needs to teach and still fall short of his own expectations. All right, Elon Musk finally doesn't believe it. Because of his approach, he tells you not to do business in Europe anymore. Because behind the Europeans, behind him to the UK, I've heard many people know that Elon Musk has a big problem, which is ruining his energy business. That day, using lithium iron phosphate batteries, and also bought from CATL, this import tariff really turned a dark horse into 70%. If it falls back another 100%, that energy business won't be viable. Europe should understand North America. It's essentially a free trade zone. Actually, Europe understands North America is not an absolute free employment zone, but a free trade zone that's close to a completely free trade area. The US charges Europe a little over 2%, and Europe charges the US a little over 3%. Don't even mention it, except for a few agricultural products and certain categories, most of the tariffs between the two sides are already negligible. What to do then? Fellow citizens must understand clearly, no one is charging the US dozens of percent in tariffs. Such a thing doesn't exist. China charges a 5% tariff, Vietnam even charges 7%, and at the highest, they impose tariffs of over 10%. Or even up to 80 or 90%, which is completely true. All right, the whole thing is just Navarro. He finally couldn't resist bringing in the victim, Elon Musk, a PhD in economics from Harvard, Navarro's Harvard PhD. There's one thing that's not good. Navarro's correct. PhD. Or no PhD. He's just obsessed with trade quietly. He's just holding onto the trade deficit. Navarro is a very obsessive person because, is he? Q? He's actually waiting for the right time to speak. Navarro is responding. He wants to use this response to Musk, hoping Musk can understand the long-term harm the US has suffered from other countries. This is a dilemma. Can I not be harmed? The US has a significant tangible trade deficit, but it also has a large surplus in intangible trade. The actual deficit isn't that large, and some American companies are headquartered abroad, doing foreign business and making a lot of money. He doesn't account for these things. Including applying high-pressure, non-tariff barriers, that's someone else's business, dumping cheap goods. Well, you have a relative advantage, right? Things become cheaper, and for things that can't be cheap, they still want to sell them to you at a higher price. Musk, hey, speaking of Musk, Musk is just a car salesman. Musk has become a car salesman. Now, I don't agree with Musk in this way. I can only say, what he does, he is an absolute genius. Really, Tesla and SpaceX are truly amazing. It's understandable that he protects his own interests, but to say these are the best, well, that's it. It's like when some people argue with me and say, Xiao, you're just doing business. As if doing business is something to look down upon, which makes no sense at all. Okay. Let's take a look at yesterday's protest. Hands off, 1,200 events, no one knows how many people. Okay, this was the largest protest since Donald Trump took office. 1,200 events telling him to back off, which actually means, to be precise, back off, stop messing with universities, stop messing with scientific research, stop messing around. Main things are threefold. First, many of the leaders are those government employees who were fired by him, ending the billionaire takeover of the government and rampant corruption. Hey, the corruption he talks about has no evidence. If there was, people would have been arrested. Stop cutting Medicare, Social Security, and government assistance that workers rely on. Currently, they say these are inefficient. Yes, sometimes they are inefficient. Out of 10, 3 might be fraudulent. For example, 3 might not truly deserve the aid. But now you're saying not to give to any of the 10, even though 7 of them are legitimate. Stop attacking immigrants, transgender people, and other groups. This hatred is something that people from both the left and right have written about. Look at Boston. The largest number of people is in Washington, with 100,000 people. Boston, New York, these places have tens of thousands, and San Francisco, Santiago, these are very surprising to me. I am from Oakland, which is across from San Francisco. Utah is very conservative. Idaho is conservative too, yet so many people are protesting. Right. This point ends here.